All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. The Detroit Lions won their third straight game yesterday on the road against the New York Jets. They have now won 6 of their last 7, and as we go week by week, as the Detroit Lions keep winning, their playoff chances keep increasing. We'll talk about that a little later on in the video, but we have a fun little fun anecdote here. Lions defensive end James Houston has become the 3rd rookie since sacks were created in 1982 to record a sack in each of his first 4 career games. So now, according to Field Yates, the Lions now have the top 2 sack leaders amongst rookies, with Aiden Hutchinson sitting at 7 on the season and Houston at 5. I mean, they did a phenomenal job offensively and defensively drafting this past year in 2022, and regardless of the playoffs, we talk about this every single video, their future is bright, man. They are literally built for a dynasty, in my opinion. They are built to win, and winning on the road, I don't care who you're playing, it's not easy, man. The New York Jets statistically have the 4th best defense in the National Football League, so I know it wasn't pretty. In fact, right at the gate, right when the Lions brought that punt return back to the house, I thought for sure it was going to be a blowout. I 100% thought that game was going to be a blowout. Unfortunately, it wasn't a blowout, but they still got the win, and a win is a win. Looking at the rest of the season, the Detroit Lions have an extremely favorable schedule. They're going to need some help. I will say the Washington Commanders lost yesterday to the New York Giants. That probably helps out the Lions because Washington has a difficult last 3 games. All you can do is take care of yourself, so just keep winning and we'll see what happens. But for a team that started 1-6, this is absolutely insane. It really is absolutely insane. They're drinking the Kool-Aid. Dan Campbell is 100% a candidate for Coach of the Year, in my opinion, or at least personally. He might be my Coach of the Year. When you start 1-6, man, it's not ideal. And they crawled their way back because a couple of those games and those 6 losses should have been victories, most notably the Minnesota game around the start of the season, but they started it up against my Green Bay Packers. They took down the Chicago Bears. They took down a playoff team in the New York Giants on the road, lost to Buffalo in a nail-biter on Thanksgiving, beat Jacksonville, who also is a playoff team right now, beat Minnesota. They were favored in that game. People called them crazy. Minnesota just had the craziest comeback of NFL history. And then you beat another borderline playoff team in the New York Jets. To be honest with you, Zach Wilson didn't really play that bad. So when we look at the Lions right now, you have so many young studs on the defensive end. And I'll just go ahead and say right now, getting guys like Romeo Okwara, he had 2 sacks yesterday in his first game since his return, or since his return from injury. They're just getting healthier, but they're just getting better. Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston has been a breath of fresh air, really, because Aiden Hutchinson was getting a lot of love. He was getting a lot of sacks. He was getting a lot of proper love. He should have been getting love. He should have been getting a lot of praise. But it's more of these lower key guys like James Houston. Kerby Joseph, not so quiet for Detroit Lions fans, but across the league, when you're 1-6, you're not getting much love from media. You're not getting much love from the national attention. So having guys like Kerby Joseph, Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston, but then you also have, your guys like Alex Anzalone, you have Deshaun Elliott, you have Jeff Okudah, you have Romeo Okwara. Like, their defense is a couple of pieces away. Honestly, there may be 2 or 3 bigger name free agents from having definitely not anywhere near the worst defense in the league. I don't, analytically, statistically speaking, they're, what are they? We actually have it right here. I think 29 or 28. They're 31st. Second to worst defensive rating in the league, but the eye test will tell you much differently. When you give up just 23, I know Minnesota, to me, they're like, kind of posers, but it's a special season. They might not be, who knows. Crazier things have happened. When you give up 23 to Minnesota, you give up just 28 to Buffalo, one of the best offenses in the league, 14 to Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars, 18 to the Giants, 9 to my Packers. Like, obviously you don't have a top 10 defense quite yet, but once they fill in these gaps, once they fill in these holes, I fully imagine with I would go probably 3 of their first 4 draft picks will be defensive players, and then I would imagine that one other pick might be a backup to Jared Goff, just for like the future of Jared Goff, just to kind of get him ready, put him by a nice quarterback. Jared Goff is a really underrated QB. I mean, it wasn't the prettiest game offensively for the Detroit Lions against the Jets. Like I said, the Jets have a top 5 defense in the league. They're ranked 4. They did not target Sauce. They came in with a game plan, and they stuck to it. And really, at the end of the day, what needed to happen, what I thought was going to happen, was you win in the trenches. Trench game was all right. 28 carries, 107 yards, 3.8 yards per rush. DeAndre Swift, 8 carries for 52 yards. He averaged 6.5 yards per carry. He was much better than Jamal Williams. Jamal, 13 for 33, just 2.5 yards per attempt. He's kind of been slowing down a little bit. He did have a touchdown get reversed. We'll talk about the red zone, but I thought really what the game plan was going to be was, I thought it was going to be Mike White up until, I guess we all kind of thought it was going to be Mike White up until the last couple of days. Force turnovers, right? But win in the trenches, get the run game, establish the run game. Jared Goff, do your thing, make a couple of throws, but most importantly for Jared Goff and the Lions offense in general, no mistakes. No turnovers. If you can play a clean football game, if you can move the ball, if you can carry those sticks, you're going to win the game. That's what ended up happening. Jared Goff, Dan Campbell, they had a huge play call on 4th and inches with the game on the line, right to Brock White, who had just dropped the ball not long before. 51 yards for the touchdown. He wasn't even touched all the way until like the 5 or 10 yard line, and he threw a couple of jukes to the Jets' way and scored that touchdown. It really was a beautiful play call, and it was a very nice last possession because, it's not like Jared Goff was doing horribly up until that point. He had about 200 yards throwing, but the Jets were doing a great job at limiting touchdowns, because up until that point the Lions offensively didn't have any offensive touchdowns. Their one touchdown in the first quarter came on a punt return, which was just beautiful, might I add, but I really thought it was going to be a blowout. But Jared Goff and the Lions offense, they got a touchdown when they needed to get a touchdown. I don't really know what Robert Saleh was doing. This game very easily could have gone into overtime. I really don't know what Saleh was doing with 3 timeouts in his back pocket all the way with the last 2 minutes. I really don't know how bad you mismanaged that clock, but it doesn't matter, right? The Detroit Lions, they made a stop at the end. They forced a very long kick in a very cold day in the stadium, and they walked away with a victory. So there's no pictures on the score sheet. The Lions are having a lot of fun out there. You don't want to play them. You just genuinely do not want to play this team right now, and unfortunately for Carolina, they've got them next weekend, then Chicago's got them, then Green Bay. I could easily see this team go 10-7, and my point still stands. If you go 10-7, if the Lions actually go 10-7, run the table, they're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be in the playoffs. We can sit here and debate, the Giants might lose to blank, they're going to beat blank, the Commanders are going to beat blank, they're going to lose to blank, Seattle, blank, blank, blank. 10-7, in my opinion, for the Detroit Lions gets you in the playoffs. So that's it for today. I apologize that the recap was a little bit late. Family thing yesterday. So if you want more Lions content, let me know down below. As always, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content and at least 3 times a week Lions content. But most importantly, guys, I want to hear your thoughts on that game down below. Let me know what you think the Lions playoff odds are right now. I think it's at least 50%. I don't know what it is statistically, but for me personally, I think it's at least 50%.